This is the Selected Podcast, your backstage pass and exclusive access to some of the biggest names in the tech industry. Brought to you by Sesamers, the definitive name in tech event media.
Hi there, this is Ben from Sesamers, recording live at VDS 2025 in Valencia. VDS is one of Europe's coolest tech events organized by Startup Valencia. This year it celebrates its 8th edition, bringing together more than 12,000 attendees from 120 countries at Valencia City of Art and Sciences. Today I'm joined by Ramzi Rizk, serial entrepreneur, angel investor and managing director at Work in Progress Capital. He's the co-founder of Aware and IAM, holds 4 AI patents, and has been building AI R&D teams since 2013. He's also a founding member of the German AI Association and has made over 36 angel investments since 2020. Ramzi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ben. Good to be here.
You had an amazing journey as a founder and now angel investor and now GP of a fund. Can you walk us through how co-founding IAM and Aware shaped your perspective on AI today?
Yeah, I mean, I have a technological background, right? Computer science, software engineering, so I've always been a bit more on the tech-forward side. Everything I ever founded was born out of a passion for either the subject matter or the impact that it had. So I've always been a super passionate photographer, and that was the reason why I founded IAM. Very early on, we realized that the only way we could scale was through automation. So we started investing in AI in 2013 already. Always seen it as more of a tool than as some fancy magical solution for everything. And I think that's kind of my perspective still to this day.
Can you tell us just what IAM was doing?
Absolutely. So 2010. Early 2010, a little bit before Instagram, I always like to say, even though we never managed to be at that scale, we wanted to build a platform for mobile photographers to connect, so more like a social network. But we also wanted to make sure that they were paid for their work. So we didn't want to go down advertising, and maybe we'll touch on that later, because I think fundamentally the business models of social networks are part of the reason why a lot of them are broken and why so many bad things have happened in the last couple of decades. We wanted to build it in a way that allowed photographers to actually earn money from their photos. As we grew, we had 25 million photographers using the platform towards the very end. We realized there was no way for us to manually review that content and send it on. So we were licensing content to Getty, Shutterstock, Adobe. We were the biggest distributor on some of these platforms. There was no way for us to do that, as in both to understand what is in a photo, as well as to understand whether a photo is commercially viable or not, whether a photo is on brand for a certain customer or not, without applying machine learning and computer vision to it. So we decided to kind of dive into that topic very deeply.
So to classify and tag photos in a sense.
Classify and rank as well, right? So also tell, is this a commercially viable photo? Is this photo on brand for BCG, who is one of our biggest customers? Is this photo suitable for a certain campaign or not? So essentially what creative directors, art directors, as well as editors were doing. We wanted to automate that.
I'd like to ask, because you started building AI already back in 2013, so let's say way before the current AI boom. By doing it, did you get like some sort of an edge? Were you like others were also doing it, or were you building something before others did?
I mean, we were super early. I mean, I'm always proud of saying sometime around 2016, 2017, we were out benchmarking pretty much everyone. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Clarify, which is still around. It's a pretty strong computer vision company. Matthew Zellner is the founder, who's one of the people that wrote the initial papers on convolutional networks, which was kind of the technique that changed how we classified images at scale. We had an edge, right? Not today. This tech has just been so commoditized today that it entirely changed. But yeah, that gave us a pretty large advantage over, everyone else. But also just in allowing us to, for the work that we were doing to be feasible financially, to actually make sense.
Would you do, if you were to start the same business today, IAM? Would it make sense or no?
I think it wouldn't make sense for a few different reasons. One, morally, even though we never wanted IAM to be that kind of networked. I don't think the way social is being built is good for society. So I don't think social networks need to be built in the same way. I think social networks have, it's very clear to me now that they are almost, they're a cry for help, right? We want to be connected, we want to be close to people, we want to feel community, we want to feel a sense of family, and we use social networks as almost an alternative to that. So I wouldn't build it for that reason. I think with generative AI, pretty much stock photography is dead, so that side of the business wouldn't really work anymore. Technologically, there wouldn't be an edge. We were licensing our technology back then to phone manufacturers, to big camera companies. They don't need that anymore. So like a lot of these things that were viable and valid maybe in 2013, 2014 have totally been disrupted today, which is kind of what AI has done to a whole variety of business models.
Tomorrow you're speaking on a panel about AI and content creation. Can you tell me the answer to the question of the panel? It's, are we enhancing or replacing human creativity? What's going to be your answer?
I think neither. So I have this take that I've had for the last 10 years that we have a very human-centric look at all of these things. We think we're very special, creative butterflies because in our context today, writing a funny tweet counts as creative. If we look back 100 years ago, the definition of creativity was completely different. If we, I think at some point, if you could read, then you were considered to be creative. So the definition, it's like there's a moving goalpost. The definition of creativity has changed, and I think what AI has done, what generative AI has done in particular, is kind of expose a little bit our hubris, our egos, right? The reason people argue against it is that we feel threatened by things that we always said, oh, this is the domain of humans, this is what makes us special, and now a machine can do it just as well. So I think it's neither. I think we need to figure out when a machine can automate certain things and do it at the same level of quality, what is creativity then? So it's a matter of redefining it. I still think in many ways music, for example, is the domain of humanity, right? Because music is not just the notes and the sounds and the tones, and generative AI can create music that sounds exactly like Beethoven or the Beatles, but music is a shared cultural experience, and that part will remain entirely human, right? Literature is a shared cultural experience. That's why, just having an AI that can write a book does not mean that book will have an impact on our psyche. So the long answer is that, right? We're redefining it. The short answer is yes, it's destroyed what we used to think of as being creative.
I'm wondering if you see this. I mean, you can argue that entrepreneurship is a form of creative practice in a sense, as building new companies or building new products. I'm trying to make a connection with the fact that you are reviewing companies that are at the edge of AI. Do you see this? The question I'm going to make is AI also enabling company building or destroying creativity that an entrepreneur would need to have to build his business?
Oh, it's absolutely enabling it. The thing is, at the end of the day, kind of it's Newton's law, right? Whatever we're destroying, something else is being created. There's yes, AI and kind of, let's say, particularly LLMs and generative models are probably destroying a wide swath of businesses that are no longer sustainable, no longer viable. And I actually don't invest in most AI SaaS for that particular reason, because I don't think AI is augmenting most SaaS. I think AI is completely replacing it. At the same time, what has happened is it's freed us up, both on the actual acts of building a company. It's freed us up because you can do a lot of things much faster, much cheaper than you couldn't before. Just like I would say the advent of cloud computing allowed us to start building companies much faster, much cheaper, because suddenly it was much more affordable. So I think on the one hand, the building blocks of creating companies have been made so much easier by AI. On the other, it's obviously destroyed a whole bunch of valid businesses that no longer have a right to exist, I think. Mm-hmm. But most importantly, and I think this is what's the most exciting for me, is when you have that intersection of amazing, super powerful compute that is very accessible. These really advanced models that in many ways function like the human brain does, whether it's transformer technologies, LLMs and so on and so forth. And the amazing amount of data that we've gathered and we are now able to crunch. What I'm seeing is people that are taking on problems that we thought were absolutely impossible, and we're accelerating the way we're accelerating technological innovation for really important things, right?
So that's the thesis of your fund, basically. Somehow.
Yeah, to an extent, for sure. The thesis of my fund is really less about the technology itself and more about the impact on the world we want to live in. But that is primarily driven by technology. So, do I care that AI sales automation startups there's 1,000 of them and they're destroying maybe a billion jobs, whatever? Not really. But what I do care about is these AI models are allowing us to understand the brain in a way that we never understood before. They're allowing us to understand how, we're doing this in vivo research that is allowing us to understand how the microbiome functions. We're allowing how proteins react with certain conditions in certain bodies. We're going to cure cancer in the next 10 years, and I fully believe that. We're going to unlock the brain in the next 10 years. We're going to empower, discovery of food sources that will feed the entire planet in the next 10 years. And a lot of this is thanks to AI taking a lot of the heavy lifting off of our shoulders. And so that's what I'm really excited about.
I'm going to quote your backing Frontier Technologies Transforming Critical Systems. That's right. What does it look like in practice?
I've evolved that a little bit as one does, because building a fund really is no different than building a startup.
The name of the fund is Work in Progress Capital, exactly. So it's fine. You're allowed to do it.
It's I think I called it that because I think I'm a work in progress, and at the minute I stop learning, I'll probably die. I think the world is a work in progress and we're building the future. So now I say I'm backing engineers and scientists who are creating the future we want to live in. But it really doesn't make a difference, right? So when I think of these systems that are critical, some of them are outdated and need to be replaced. I think energy is a perfect example of that. Some of them are at a limit and they need to be scaled. Healthcare is a perfect example of that, right? In Europe, we have amazing healthcare. In the US, maybe it's not so much. In both cases, we need to figure out how to make sure that people live longer, live healthier, are more fulfilled. So that's a system that needs to be scaled up and evolved. And there's critical systems, whether it's defense, whether it's the food infrastructure and so on, that need to be hardened and made resilient against shocks. And I'm investing in pretty much anyone that is building stuff for those systems, right? The human part of it is, I think, very interesting for me. So the two parts where I'm most focused on, everything around AI and novel compute, everything around neuro and unlocking the brain, augmenting humanity, that's one that I'm really interested about. And the other is healthcare, which is kind of also I have a background in. Because I think in many ways, healthcare and medicine and medtech has been stuck in the last century. And it's about time we kind of make that jump.
You are one of the co-founder of a company called Aware.
Yes.
Can you just tell us quickly, shortly, what is it?
Aware was born out of, I think, that need to take control over our health data. In Germany, it's particularly very analog, and we wanted to build a platform that allows you to very quickly test, starting with blood tests, using existing labs, so no funny Theranos business here, using existing labs, digitizing data, making it available to you, so you can actually track how your biomarkers are evolving over time. I think we need to make healthcare more preventative and more data-driven. And as it is right now, in many ways, it's much more therapy-driven and it's much more experience-driven. And the combination of both will allow people to live healthier, longer lives and find their purpose. So that was the vision behind Aware, and it's still up and running and doing really well. I'm just not operationally involved anymore. And a lot of the companies that I'm investing in out of Work in Progress are for that purpose as well.
Before Work in Progress, you were doing angel investments. So I mentioned earlier 36 angel investments in 2020. Some of them are actually very top performing. Not some of them, maybe all of them, but some of them are quite very top tier performance companies. Now that you've done that, I guess that you have a track record that allows you to build a fund and get others' monies to manage as a fund. Can you share with us maybe some of your learnings? What are the patterns that you see in founding teams that are the ones that are succeeding from these 36 investments?
I think there's a lot of certainty when people talk about the patterns they look at. I find I kind of live by a set of rules, and one of them is strong opinions weakly held, which means I think it's always a good day when someone convinces me to change my mind. If I look at the companies I invested in, there's no secret sauce. There's no like, I'm not a genius. I am not smarter than the average person. I think I have a sense for people, and in many cases, it's still the people that when you see the fire in their eye, when you see the passion that they're building something for a reason, that's something that interests me and excites me to invest. But to counter that, there's a whole other set of really successful companies that were founded by people that researched a bunch of markets, identified one where they had some sort of advantage, some sort of information asymmetry. They figured out there was some inefficiency in the market, and they went there and built a really successful company. So I think to every point there's a counterpoint. What I like to invest in, I think, is people primarily. Since I invest very early, anyway, I have very little to go on apart from, do I believe what they're building makes sense? Do I believe that the market is there? Do I believe that they have like a good product founder fit? And are they obsessive? Are they energized? Are they excited? Are they nerdy? Are they passionate? Are they doing this for something greater than just the act of building a company and the lifestyle of being a founder? Nothing against that, but that's not necessarily. It's not necessarily conduit to building a company that you need to sustain for a decade potentially, because there's going to be tough times. There's going to be times where everything is bleak, and that resilience that you have as a founder generally comes from an obsession in building the problem, right? I look for people with a chip on their shoulder. I look for people who have something to prove to others, whether it's because of their socioeconomic background, whether it's because they've been challenged in life, whether it's because they've personally experienced the pain point and it's left scars and that's shaped them. So a lot of it is quite qualitative. And naturally, I rely quite a bit on other investors that I work with, on other experts in subject matters, because what the hell do I know about synthetic biology, and what the hell do I know about multi-omics for cancer therapeutics and drug discovery? And I know very little about a lot of things, and I know a lot about very few things. So I kind of go for the passion primarily and that energy.
I'm sorry, but I want to ask again, how do you convince people to invest in the fund with this narrative? You know what I mean?
Someone keeps telling me, or like a few people have told me, welcome to the dark side, when I decided to become a venture capitalist, which I find is a little bit funny, right? Because I don't think there's dark and light. I think it's the kind of person that you are. Fundraising has been more difficult, I have to admit. Fundraising for a fund has been more difficult than fundraising for any of the 5 companies that I founded or any of the other companies that I've supported, for a variety of reasons. I think the climate in general is a bit more difficult. I have a really good track record of returns as an angel, which you'd think would be enough, but it's not necessarily. There's a whole bunch of different categories of investors and funds, from high net worths, other VCs, founders that are successful, to family offices, to fund of funds. In many cases, they can wait. They can afford to wait a few months and see how I'm performing. So I can probably have a better answer for this question 6 months from now, 9 months from now. Right now, I think the people that are investing are people that are ideologically convinced in the need to have funds like this run by people like me that are different from like a typical average VC, right? Most VCs don't have a technical background, don't have an AI background, don't have an operational founder background. And it's something that founders resonate with. So I think that a lot of people investing are convinced by that, are convinced by the kind of companies that I've invested in, are convinced by a little bit the ideology that I want of, also on a European level, I think, of actually doing and not talking, of avoiding waiting for the government to make change and make change inevitable by supporting the companies that are pushing us and creating that future we want to live in. And these are the things that are convincing people. But like I said, it's a huge fucking grind. You cannot imagine. Like I I didn't imagine this
How
going
big
in.
the fund will be?
10 million in total.
Okay, 10. And so typically what you describe is when we hear a fund, so to educate, kind of founders out there, when we hear a fund announcing its first close, it's basically that they reach a certain amount.
A threshold that they set for themselves.
And
so
then, so when they
investing.
do that, then they can go maybe back to those who didn't say yes at the beginning.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, now I'm a bit more convinced, something like that.
To an extent. I mean, typically you do it so you can start investing. And again, it depends on the dynamics. So in my case, first time fund manager, fund one, solo GP, it's like this, and it's a smallish fund, right? So a lot of potential investors wouldn't qualify because they want to invest at least 5 million, say, and they don't want to own more than 10% of a fund. So they're all out of the question. A lot of funds don't invest in the first close and the first time manager. They want to wait to see, one, that you can raise, two, that you can find companies, you can win the deals, you can source and you can invest. So they wait a little bit, and then your first time around, you're typically left with individuals doing smaller checks from your close network. A little bit like as a founder, you go with angels for your first round. But you do that in order to get the first step in and to go and fundraise some more. Now, a lot of managers, they find an anchor. That's in many ways how you go. You go and find someone who's willing to give you a big chunk of money to get you started. And then they incorporate, they do that, then they go and raise a little bit more and they start investing. Me being irrational the way I am, I started investing the minute I incorporated the fund before even fundraising. So all of my money is already, that I've saved up, is already invested in the belief that I will fundraise and make it work. And I did look for an anchor, so I've approached it, I guess, a little bit differently, a little bit like a founder, which I find like, again, that's why shining a little bit of light into that sector. I experienced it firsthand as a founder, as a first-time founder. Some of the investors that I worked with back then are still very close friends and people that I admire and I look up to. Many of them are invested in my fund, and they're people that I've sent deals to over the years, and they taught me a lot about how you can do it the right way. And later on, some of the investors that I worked with taught me a lot about how VC could be broken, and how there's this inherent attempt to leverage the information asymmetry that a first-time founder in particular doesn't have about the economics of venture capital and how a VC fund works. And I try to when I talk to founders, I try to kind of share that knowledge with them, because I think if you create a bit more incentive alignment across the board, I think in the long run that helps everyone. So that's kind of a bit of my underground mission statement.
Do you know any other sort of successful founders who are considering making a move into investment? Have they come to you to ask you how hard it is to do it?
I am way too early to maybe I help some that are looking to angel invest with a very limited, very abstract knowledge of if it feels good, do it. I don't have enough knowledge to share about building a fund yet. I know a lot of founders look at it. I know a lot of founders consider it. In many cases, and a lot of founders that turned investors told me join a fund instead. And I considered it for a while. If you haven't invested quite a bit, maybe it's better to do that. Since I've invested, I thought, okay, at least the investing part.
Yeah, you know it.
I know maybe the essentially, the fund manager, the money manager part, I can learn. But I don't really have much advice to founders that are looking to make the jump, except that fundraising is going to be much harder. And the big question is going always to be, can you find the right deals? Do you have that edge? Do you have that differentiation to find the right deals? Do you have the skill set to pick the right companies out of those deals? And then can you win those allocations? And then can you add value, right? So that's kind of the life cycle of investing. And in most cases, I think we need more founders investing, because we know the pain points, we know what it takes, we have more empathy towards the struggles of founders. So I think the more the merrier, and it should be something that a lot of them consider.
I I would like to know, as we're going to wrap up this interview, about your experience here at this event. And actually, I asked you earlier, because you're going to be a judge on the pitch competition, if you are looking at companies when you are attending an event like VDS that are potentially interesting from an investor point of view. There is a bit of a debate of I'll never really get deals from an event, or you just come here to meet with other investors. What is your perspective, and a bit more specifically with Valencia as a background here?
Right. Again, I like blanket statements of just saying there are no good companies that go to startup conferences. The best ones don't. I don't agree with that. I think just like everything else, it's both in terms of selecting as well as in terms of investing. It's kind of a power law, right? The vast majority of startups would not be a fit for me, and because of the way the startup model works, the vast majority of startups are going to fail. Finding that outlier means you have to go everywhere and you have to go anywhere. It's the same argument with ecosystems, right? There's a reason why there's way more successful startups coming out of San Francisco or Boston or Berlin or Paris or London or New York than coming out of smaller towns. And it's that critical mass, it's like that self-fulfilling prophecy. I think it's my job and it's my mission in a way to find the rough gems where everyone else is not looking, because the opportunities are there, the skills are there, particularly with AI, the access is there, and that gives you an advantage as an investor. With regards to VDS, I mean, I reviewed the 50 startups for the pitch contest a couple of months ago. I singled out quite a few that I've spoken to as well already. Looking at a few more, and I think there's a lot of potential. I think even more so, I think the founder that is still fighting and pushing to build a deep tech thing and doesn't have the access to the investors that other founders have, has developed a thick skin and a resilience that makes them potentially more my kind of founder, and more like I said, more resilient, and maybe increases their chance of success. So I'm looking forward to meeting. I mean, I just got here last night. I'm looking forward to meeting startups today and tomorrow, and I'm sure there's going to be some that we would be good to invest in.
Thank you. Where can other kind of founders, investors, or anyone who just AI curious, where can they follow your work and stay connected? Are you like a LinkedIn person, Snapchat one?
OnlyFans basically is my only channel. No, I pretty much all the socials I'm at RAMZ at Rams, which kind of shows my age because I was early enough that I could get the 4 letters. I used to be proud that you can just write Ramzi on LinkedIn and I would be the first hit. Now there's a couple of Ramzis friends actually that are in this space. So Ramzi Rizk, RAMZI on LinkedIn, and I actually read my LinkedIn messages, and I found some investments over LinkedIn. So please reach out. Love to talk.
That's good to hear. Thank you for your time today and sharing your insights.
Thank you, Ben. Such a pleasure.
We're live at VDS 2025 in Valencia. If you're enjoying these conversations, don't forget to subscribe to the Selected podcast for more stories from the founders and investors shaping the future of tech. And see you soon on Sesamers, the event co-pilot for startups.